Mohun Bagan ended the last Indian Super League season on an absolute high when they ended up winning the title, but the team that have now been renamed Mohun Bagan Supergiant have not been sitting still at all and have been making some rather interesting additions to their squad during the off-season when the transfer window has opened. That being said, they have also let go of or sold a few players, and it is an interesting time really when you're looking at the club, because of course the profile of the club as well as the league as well as the Indian national team is definitely one that's growing, and it is, truth be told, reflected in the kind of recruitment that Mohun Bagan have been doing during the off season. But there are still some areas of improvement for them, of course, but so far, let's just say that they've been doing a really good job. So in this video, what we're going to be doing, and it's the start of a new series, you can say, wherein we'll be analyzing the transfers that the club have completed up until this point, and we'll do these for all ISL and other clubs as well. So what we'll do is we'll look at the transfer incomings as well as the outgoings, and then look at where it is that they can still potentially improve before the window slams shut. So without further ado, let's get straight to it. First off, let's look at the players who've left the club, and this is an interesting list because if you're looking at it, then all three of them are in fact defenders. Pritham Kotal is someone who has been a pretty loyal servant to the club in recent times. He departed for Kerala Blasters. Then you have Thiri, who's been a part of the Indian football ecosystem what feels like forever, and he was someone who was part of the club from their days when they were known as ATK. And of course, Slavko Damjanovic is another one who was a pretty key part of the squad last year. And in fact, if you're looking at it, as I said, all three are defenders. Pritham Kotal was predominantly their first choice at right back. Thiri and Damjanovic were more often than not playing for them in the center of defense. Now, obviously, some of these outgoings have been addressed, but there are more than a few that still need a little bit of addressing. But now, though, let's look at who it is that the players who they've brought in up until this point. And believe you me when I say, if you're a Mohun Bagan fan, you have every reason to be excited at some of these signings. In fact, really, I'd say all of these signings. First off, they've brought in Sahal Abdul Samad. Now, Abdul Samad is someone who has been one of the rising stars of Indian football for the longest of time. So, truth be told, he's someone who, him actually leaving Kerala Blasters was a pretty big deal, and the fact that he's joined Mohun Bagan is very, very exciting. They've also signed Anwar Ali, who had been making a very good impression for, of course, FC Goa and with the Indian national team as well. So that's one defender you can say that they've replaced from the ones that they've let go of. Then, of course, there's Anirudh Thapa, who, of course, will join their midfield and, of course, adds to the number of talented midfielders they have. And Armando Sadiku, who is the striker for Albania, he joins. And last but not the least, Jason Cummings. Now, as I said, all five of these players, truth be told, can get fans excited for very, very different reasons. And if we look at all of those reasons, it's a mixture of reasons. First off, let's look at Abdul Samad. Abdul Samad, as I said, is someone who's being seen as one of the best young rising talents in Indian football, and him signing for Mohun Bagan, absolute coup. Anwar Ali is someone who can shore up Mohun Bagan's defense for at least a decade, if not longer. That's how good he is. And of course, he's still very, very young and can still improve. Anirudh Thapa, as I said, adds to the number of midfielders that they have, a number of talented midfielders that they have already. And of course, midfield, I think at this point, Mohun Bagan are kind of overstacked, and they might actually be a few departures before the end of the season if things go well. Then, if you're looking at the last two names, the two forwards, Armando Sadiku and Jason Cummings, both are strikers who have played at the highest level of the game internationally as well as, of course, in club football. Sadiku is someone who's represented Albania as recently as the 2023-24 UEFA Euro qualifiers, and has also played in the European Championships for the nation when they made it all the way back in 2016. As for Jason Cummings, well, he was part of the Australia squad that played the 2022 FIFA World Cup. In fact, he played the first game that Australia lost, which was, of course, against eventual finalists and runners-up France. So this is again someone who has not just a pedigree for scoring goals, as he did a plenty for the Central Coast Mariners in the A-League, but also someone who's played at the highest level of international football, will bring a wealth of experience. Both Sadiku and Cummings will in fact be valuable additions. That being said, of course, as I said, the squad still does look a little bit disbalanced, and in fact they do need some additions. So let's look at what exactly it is that still needs to be done if you are Mohun Bagan. The first thing they need to do is bring in some experienced defenders. The second thing, they need to trim the number of midfielders in the squad, and then they need to do everything they can to stay on top of the mountain. Of course, that first point, bring in experience in defense. You saw the 3 players who left. All 3 of them midfielders, all 3 of them experienced, and players who were playing regularly for the side. So that is something that is not easy to replace. Second, the number of midfielders or attacking midfielders that the team has right now is somewhere in around like 12 to 14 of them. That's way too many, especially when you consider the fact that you're playing at most 3 or 4, depending on, of course, the kind of formation it is that you're playing. So that's one too many midfielders and attackers. And don't forget, they've brought in newer players as well in those same positions. So there's definitely going to be an overlap of sorts. And the last part is very, very important, because again, this is a team that have only just won the ISL. They need to be staying on top of that mountain, because again, if you're a fan of clubs like Mohun Bagan, East Bengal, legacy clubs of Indian football, being on top, consistently challenging for trophies, that's something you are used to. And with Mohun Bagan, they've actually managed to very, very convincingly overcome a lot of the problems that they'd been facing over the past few years. A lot of financial problems. Then, of course, they were taken over and merged with ATK. There was a lot of controversy, you'd remember, about the whole ATK Mohun Bagan thing. That got removed. Now the club is named Mohun Bagan Super Giant, although most people still, of course, refer to it as Mohun Bagan. But the simple fact of the matter is that that transition into the newer ownership has actually stabilized the club's finances to an extent, and in fact it's helped them attract a lot of these new talented players. So again, they are in a good position. They have a good manager in Juan Ferrando, and truth be told, they've made some very exciting signings. Yes, there's still a few players they can probably do without. As I said, they've got a lot of midfielders, and they do need a little bit more steel in defense. Anwar Ali is good, but he's young and would need someone more experienced alongside him for him to flourish. One of the reasons he's done as well for the Indian team is because he's had someone like a Jingan to count upon alongside him, experienced campaigner, someone who's of course played at the highest level as well. So there is that to consider, but overall this Mohun Bagan side have a very exciting look, and if I were a Mohun Bagan fan, I would be certainly very excited about what it is that they can do next season, because this side just looks very, very good. And that's it from us for this video. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Please don't forget, if you enjoyed it, to like it, share it with your friends, subscribe to the channel, tap the bell icon, leave us a comment, follow us on Instagram, Twitter and Facebook. Don't forget to download the AajTak app as well, and if you're already on the channel, go ahead, check out some other videos that we've done. But for now, from my side, it's goodbye.